Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of the Amazing Mindset Chat Room. And today I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Hussain Al-Zubaidi. Um, and I can only really find the simplest way of introducing Hussain is to say that he's a doctor with a difference. It's very difficult to put him into words straight away because he's involved in so many things, but so many things to do with well-being. And I'm just going to hand it over straight away to you, Hussein, to say welcome to the chat room. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to, and we're going to enjoy it.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. So, yeah, I like that introduction. I'll take it. So, I'm a GP based in South Warwickshire and Coventry, and I have an extended role in lifestyle medicine. Now, many of you listening may not have heard of lifestyle medicine before, or may be confused by the term, but essentially, it's trying to use evidence-based approaches along the six pillars of lifestyle medicine in order to support, protect, and enhance health, both on an individual and on a population level. Now, the six pillars of lifestyle medicine are physical activity, nutrition, sleep, minimizing harmful substances and behaviors, mental well-being, stress management, and healthy relationships. Those are six pillars. And I work with a number of organizations in order to try to improve knowledge, confidence, and skills amongst healthcare professionals and the population at large.
Mm. That's wonderful. Six pillars. The one of the comments made about the work that you do was the fact that you were basically trying also through your work to link community with well-being.
Mm.
It's something I discussed in one of my podcasts with a chap you know very well, Graham Hind.
Mm.
You spoke at the meeting last May, didn't you, in Bolton about GLP-1s? And chatting with him, he was very much into community, as another friend of mine, Andy King. Um, so, can you tell us how you're involving your lifestyle medicine through community?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when I first started off, a lot of my work was sort of delivered through one-to-one consultations. So looking at translating the evidence, assessing the patient's particular medical, both physical and mental, as well as the social determinants, and looking to apply management plans in a way that works. It quickly became apparent as I looked deeper into the research, trying to understand what were the key levers when it came to actually producing good health, that there was one that just never really gets spoken about. And I suspect it's because it can't be monetized as easily as
Mm.
some of the others. And that is healthy relationships and what a community helps to produce those things. At the end of the day, community is just a word, but when we break it down into what it matters is that you are able to form a healthy range of relationships in so many different forms, and that you have that constant churn of making new relationships, because that's key. And I realized that in the consultation room itself, I couldn't really make a difference from a community perspective. I could signpost, I could increase awareness as to what was out
Mm.
there. And I also found that a number of the patients with long-term conditions all struggled with the concept of community or the confidence in order to engage in a community that felt relevant to them. And so I spent time speaking and working with patients to understand how can we help this particular element, and how can we
Mm.
build that community. And now in the services that we run all through the NHS at the Leamington Primary Care Network, community is the cornerstone of every bit of the service delivery we do. We have a number of groups across the week that are completely free, accessible, And that link in with community, voluntary, and faith sector organizations within our area to build a kind of a spider network where we can then really leverage the benefits that community brings for people's health. And it's so important that we frame this correctly because for so many, they come to me and they want help with the physical activity, with nutrition, with sleep. And it's always very kind of individual and very kind of focused on themselves. And there are so many benefits you can produce by that. But what I try to explain to people is that making those kind of shifts, those changes, these new behaviors, they are much better done in the environment of a healthy and positive community. It's kind of like having a new plant that is you've just bought from an award-winning show that's incredibly, great genetic stock. If you plant it in a garden that's not prepared, that doesn't have good support and drainage, etc., no matter how good that plant is, how much effort you put into looking after that plant, it just won't work. It will die off. And so we try to explain before we look to see those changes in behavior, how can we build that positive garden with support that's going to nurture these kind of new behaviors?
Absolutely wonderful. And one of the ways in which you're promoting uh, lifestyle, healthy lifestyle, through community would be through the park runs, because there's been an awful lot of stuff recently on LinkedIn where I follow you, and
Mm,
I would recommend other people try and follow you as well, because some of your posts are super. They're so commonsensical and just to the point. They're easy to read. They're not full of what you call difficult things to understand.
mm,
Uh, Layman's language, if you, for want of a better word. And but the park runs have something that I've been very interested in, because we know a number of people who are involved in park runs, who've done park runs, who volunteer for park runs, and they all speak about the same thing. It's wonderful. It's a great, and the thing that really grabbed me in the last couple of weeks was when I read something that you were supporting, which was to do with schools getting involved
mm.
in park runs or some kind of
Yeah,
runs.
Parkrun Primary.
Yeah, parkrun primary, absolutely wonderful. I used to be a primary school teacher myself in my earlier years before taking on music as full time. And I really think that to get down to grassroots level for getting people to move, okay, because this is one thing that you are on about all the time, movement. And so the subject of our talk today is going to be kind of movement and mindset, how the two are linked. One is definitely good for another. As somebody said to me the other day, my granddad used to say healthy mind, healthy body, or healthy body, healthy mind, in one of the ways, and not wrong. So but the park runs, if we can get the young ones involved from a very early age, into moving in park runs, it's going to come through, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that all too often we try to kind of explore really complex things with complex solutions when really the best things are born out of pure simplicity that you then allow individuals, communities to add in the complexities, if that makes sense. And parkrun
Mm-hmm.
is that epitomized. It's so simple. It is just local park, a route, volunteers, and people can do it how they like. They can walk,
Yeah.
they can jog, they can run. And every part of that is health creation, whether it's utilizing the park, this green and blue space,
Mm-hmm.
and having a park run, you may think, well, okay, that's just quite simple thing to do. But if we just start even there are many areas in the UK where those parks are not deemed to be safe or attractive, etc. You create a park run at that park, you know that improves people's perception of the very same park. It provides
Mm-hmm.
them with a safe place to be active when maybe it wasn't safe on a Thursday evening. Well, they know on a Saturday at 9 a.m. and Sunday for juniors, it is. So yes, we've got the nature component. We then have brilliant element of volunteering, which out of all the roles, you can't really compare and assess this in a randomized control way, but I think there's just so much evidence that the volunteering component probably brings about the best health benefits because it's not just that they've got the benefit of the kindness, the community, the interactions, but it's also physical activity as well. You're getting up on a Saturday morning, whether you're walking out to the Marshall Point or you're setting things up, that is physical activity. And for many, that is a lot of physical activity. If it brings out someone that may be struggling with their health or with social isolation, that they're not getting out otherwise, then that suddenly increased their movement levels significantly. And then from walking to running, again, doing that in a group in a way that they can enjoy, that gives them that accountability, that place where they can regularly come. It's brilliant. And the amount of people that I speak to that say kind of park run is their anchor event of the week, their week is built around park run. I think it's brilliant. And I think that's the
Yeah.
key in
Yeah.
ensuring that it's at the same time, same place,
Yes.
in so many different locations. It
Yeah.
creates that kind of anchor point,
That's
which I
right.
think is fundamental because all too often, I become quite demoralized when I see on LinkedIn and social media that healthy lifestyles wellness is being kind of turned into some kind of economic benefit. We're selling things or whether it's a product or a program, etc. When in reality, I want to encourage people that actually it's all within us. Like there's nothing you need to buy, nothing you need to sign up to. If you want to do those things, brilliant. That's great. These are seasonings around the edges. But I want to encourage people that it shouldn't be something that they need to pay for. Real
Mm-hmm.
healthy lifestyles should come in intrinsically. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the challenge is, and I fully accept that for some, accessing that kind of healthy lifestyle is more difficult than others, and there's various social determinants involved in that. And
Mm-hmm.
so my work is trying to focus on how can we break down those barriers and provide opportunities to a wider range of our society to access those movements and nutritious food and time
Mm-hmm.
for sleep and all those kind of pressures that vary across society.
It strikes me that in your pillars, there are six pillars,
Mm.
that they are so connected, aren't they? If you start with the park run, you're going to you inevitably meet people you would have never met before. You're starting something off, and then you're going to increase your probably going to increase your confidence about being with people. And then you'll meet somebody who goes, "Well, why don't you come down to the gym one day with me?" And for a lot of people, that's scary. I remember in the
Mm.
podcast I did with Graham Hind, he was telling us a story, a really, really oh, how can you describe it? It just tore at your heart, really, about somebody who was feeling obese and couldn't get out of the car to go into a gymnasium. Just got into the car park and cried. Now, there are people out there who need help to get to the next level, and so the park run, as I've seen it, can just link other bits of well-being together, knit it all together. It's a start, isn't it? And it
Yeah.
doesn't cost you anything, I don't think.
No, completely
And
free.
and also you don't have to go through that barrier or the stigma of going to a gymnasium where you might see people coming out with all nicely muscled up and looking
Mm.
great, and you're going, oof, I don't know if I fit in there, so yeah, it's wonderful that this is being done.
And,
And
and and I think some of the telling stats is so 28% of the UK population is what's defined by Sport England as inactive, so less than 30 minutes across the week. And for parkrun, if we look at the data we're collecting from people signing up, which you sign up for free online, 20% of people signing up classify themselves as being in that group, less than 30 minutes per
Mhm.
week. So we're not far from essentially representing the population. And so, like, I think what's really important is something that we're going to be launching our new health and inclusion strategy a little later this year. It's about how do we look to be that place for as many people as possible, so they
Yes.
feel like it's safe, that it's accessible, that it's enjoyable, and it's fun. Because I think we should never remove the fun from health. And I think often we do. It's become very serious now, from the
Yeah,
creatine you got to buy to this
yeah,
particular
yeah.
strength program to the, and it's all very serious and how to improve your VO2 max. But really, if it's done right, it should be a joy. It should be a
Yes,
fun. You
yes,
should
that's right.
feel great. That's
And
the
it,
markers that
yeah,
I care
and
about.
it releases all the sort of these chemicals inside you as well, which is
Mm.
good for your mind. I mean,
100%.
I was going to ask, if someone were to ask you what's the link between movement and mindset?
Yeah, God, there'd be so many. I think like
Yes,
you could
yes.
split it into a few different areas. There's probably three main areas. So like neurobiological, psychological, and but the behavior component. And if we start at the top at neurobiological, as you mentioned, there are a number of neurotransmitters, what we call neurotrophic factors, that movement releases.
Mhm.
You may have heard of BDNF, that's brain-derived neurotrophic factor. These acts on various different sites of our body, including our brain in particular, and it helps support learning. It helps support something that we call adaptability. So that's looking to understand new, different skills, as well as cognitive flexibility. So these are really great. And it's why a lot of people, when they go for a walk or a run, they often, a great idea comes to their head,
Yeah,
or they have a shift in perspective, or
yeah,
that problem suddenly, oh, I
yeah.
think I have a solution for it.
It seems to provide a little bit of space, doesn't it, for a little what some people call clarity to move in.
Yeah,
It
definitely,
provides a bit of
definitely.
space and a natural feel good factor.
Yes.
There's many times when from my own perspective, if I'm thinking, oh, I must, haven't been to the gym for a few days because I just do a bit of cross trainer and swimming in the gym, and if I haven't been for a few days, I'm going, and one day I'll be feeling, oh, I don't know whether I'm quite up to it today, but once I've been,
Mm,
you're glad you've gone, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
a feel good factor about it,
Definitely.
which
And
is
what you're
which
describing there is probably the effects of things like dopamine and serotonin. And like one thing that you'll often hear people say, they talk about endorphins. And the one thing I would encourage people, yeah, endorphins are great, but they don't actually change how you feel. So that kind of whole like endorphins makes you feel great, let's say runner's high or movement high. That's not true. Like what endorphins do is they act on the muscles that they help prepare them for, continued activity. It's actually endocannabinoids. So these are
okay,
internally created neurotransmitters that act on the same receptors that, for example, if you were taking cannabis, and they give you that kind of calm, that sort of positive reward mood feeling, which is what helps people when they're active to keep being active, and it actually translates to other behaviors for the rest of the day. More likely to want to do other behaviors which
yeah,
help support this particular new focus that you're doing. And if we think about the current issues around chronic pain that a number of people are suffering in the UK and many Western nations, and vast prescriptions of painkillers to try to support that. We know that physical activity helps to dampen those symptoms of chronic pain, helps to re-regulate how your body interprets pain. And so it's so important that we support these individuals as well, even if it can feel very challenging to find movement that works for them.
that's right. That's a beautiful comment. To find movement that works for them.
Mm.
That's the secret, isn't it? Because I've met people going back to park run who've said, "Well, I can't run,"
Mm.
and I said, "Well, you don't have to run." And they go, "Well, of course you do. It's a park run."
Yeah.
I said, "No, you don't have to run. You can walk if you want. You can crawl if you like. You can do
Yeah.
it." No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So education again, starting at the bottom level, starting at your infant schools and working way through until it becomes something natural and something that can be worked on as well. I think it's
Precisely.
absolutely wonderful. Um,
Precisely.
you are actually a triathlete, and what they call a long distance triathlete. Is this
Yeah.
this is something that I've never. I've got some friends who've done triathlon, and one of my problems is that I've never been able to swim very particularly well. So that would see me out of that one.
Well, to
But
be fair, most triathletes aren't as good at swimming as they probably should be. A few are. But yes, yeah, I do love triathlon. I think, because it wasn't that long ago that I didn't like any forms of physical activity, if I'm being honest. Like in
Really?
my mid and early 20s and before that, I had no relationship with physical activity, let alone any kind of healthy lifestyles. It was a experience through those sort of my mid 20s that made me realize how much it was needed. A few health scares and a few realizations that I was on a sort of same track as my family members, that I had to start understanding what was going wrong and what I need to do better. And it's that personal journey that I then sort of translated into my
Okay.
professional one because in medical school you don't get any real quality teaching on lifestyle interventions. And it sounds crazy. It sounds absolutely crazy, but sadly it's true. And even still to this day, apart from a few exceptions at certain medical schools, they're still given very little education and support around these topics. And it's a shame. It's a shame because it means that when it comes to appointments with healthcare professionals, patients don't get that kind of information. If they do, they just get told, oh, try and lose weight or, oh, be more active. But it's not as simple as that. It isn't
Yeah.
like if it was as simple as that, most of us would have done that by
Yeah.
now. You won't find many people if we stop them on the street. Is being active good for you? Is eating fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, etc. good for you? Like everyone's going to give you the right answers more than
Mm.
likely. It's applying it in our current environment that we've built
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah. I'm one of these people who has a go now and again at some of awareness. And I think, yeah, awareness is wonderful. Awareness is absolutely wonderful. But unless you do something about your awareness,
Mm.
you might as well not be aware.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, maybe even better to not be aware. You're going to be
yes,
blissful.
yeah. Can I just briefly, I know we haven't got a great amount of time left. Can I just briefly ask you um, about your opinions about the what they call skinny jabs?
Mm.
Because you are the one person that I've read talking about them who talks so much common sense. And I've met a few people who are giving themselves a little jab now and again, who think they need to lose weight and they don't really. And
Mm.
I've just said to them, look, I've given them your LinkedIn thing. I said, just go read some of the stuff that Hussain is writing about because it'll really help you. Because you know that, or you seem to know that it's not just the one thing. It has to be in a controlled environment, as a gymnasium is. You can't just have one machine there and you jump on it without being guided. And this guidance is what is your game for, isn't it, for when it comes
Yeah,
to that sort of health?
yeah. Like an analogy that I would give is if we imagine persistent weight loss for someone living with obesity as a car climbing a mountain. Okay. And that journey isn't a straight line over the mountain. The mountain road, like many of them, is windy and it's got lots of twists and turns. Now, if the person is the car, GLP-1s are a nitrous boost. So they help to really push that car along and overcome and really boost the power. Now, if we put a nitrous boost in a car that is not prepared, it doesn't have the suspension, the wipers, the
Mm.
lights, the sashi, all that kind of stuff, then it will move somewhere, but it may not be in the direction that you want, which is
I want to go.
overcoming the
Yeah.
mountain. You're going to go up
Yeah.
part of the mountain, you're going to fall off the side. And
Yeah.
we know from the evidence that unless we consider all the other aspects of that car, things like the kinds of foods that you're eating, sleep, stress, occupation, physical activity, and we include it not just at the end as a thought, okay, now we're coming off the medication. We have to include it from the beginning, right throughout, and then a continued approach that needs to occur. We're not going to see the change that we need to, and we also need to define as well and not blur the lines between the chronic relapsing condition that is obesity, that has a number of genetic factors involved, that when you combine those genetics and they play in the environment that we live in, that leads to continual struggle with weight versus those that are just above the healthy range where they have the opportunity and ability to make those shifting changes within their own lifestyle
Yeah.
and produce those results. Maybe not as quickly, but at the end of the day, for me, the speed at which weight loss comes down, more likely than not, if it comes down slowly over time, that's more than likely going to preserve for longer periods of time. You know, an article published about a month ago in the BMJ showed that for those that had lost weight through GLP-1s alone versus those that used lifestyle interventions alone, although the GLP-1s produced quicker weight loss, they also regained weight far quicker. So 4 times the speed in terms of the weight going
Yeah.
back on.
Yeah.
And in fact, there was a point where you could see, although they had like sped up on the line, they had now kind of overlapped. And then beyond that, once you're at 1.5 to 1.7 years after the injections, you'd regained all of the weight that you'd lost. And so that's really worrying because I fear that for too many, they're thinking of these injections as a silver bullet, when in
Hmm.
fact they're an incredible tool that can be
Yeah.
used in specific eligible individuals where there's clear components of a long-term condition occurring that we can help to see sustained weight loss.
Yeah. 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 For some, it's just an easy route, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how a lot of kind of the medications that have these kind of effects can be applied, and then
Yeah.
you kind of blur the lines because
Yeah.
like we definitely know that there are, you know, clear genetic factors for some people that influence weight, and it means that they gain a lot of weight and they can really struggle. But
Mm.
when, for example, you see at the Super Bowl halftime, you know, Serena Williams advertising GLP-1s as a way that she lost a small amount of weight, because let's be honest, she wasn't really overweight in the first place. Probably one of the most incredible athletes the world's ever
Exactly.
seen. And I think that's starting to shift things to being, oh, this is just a great kind of tool that you can use like
Mm.
multivitamins. You know, this
Mm.
isn't something that you use just to boost health a little
Yeah.
bit. These do have risks. They do have complications, and long
Yes.
term, they can't be a solution. The reason being is that even let's say if you decide that you're going to stay on these injections for life, we know that after a while you're going to start regaining weight even on the injection. What's going to happen? You can then decide to stop it and gain weight even quicker. So you can get yourself trapped in a point where you're getting poor quality weight loss because you're losing a lot of bone, muscle, connective tissue, and you're not able to actually sustain a lifestyle that leads to sustainable improvements.
Mm.
So I think it's really important that that narrative doesn't come into kind of the normal culture of wellness, and instead it's separated as a clinical pathway for eligible patients to be supported alongside these kind of lifestyle pillars. And for
Yeah.
others, instead about how can we support them? How can we adapt our environment so gaining weight isn't the norm? Because you may ask yourself, well, you know, you've mentioned that there's genetic components of obesity there. How come in, you know, the 20s, 30s, 40s, you see images, you look at statistics, how come there was such a lower obesity rate? The issue is our genetics haven't changed over the last 100 years or even last few thousands of years.
Mm.
What's happened is that the environment in which these genetics are applied has rapidly changed. The
Hmm.
food environment rapidly changed.
Rapidly.
Physical activity has been engineered out of our lives. We weren't more active before because we all loved the gym or, you know, loved going to a running club. But they were active before because it was just built into the environment. They had less technology to
Mm.
remove movement out of their day to day. And
Yeah.
it's that movement in our day to day that counts far more than any of like my triathlon training. You know, I don't I see them as separate things. The triathlon training is something I do specifically to kind of specify my, you know, physical activity. But the main bulk, the 90%, is making sure I don't stay in the chair for too long, making sure I walk around, make sure I avoid unnecessary comforts if I can bring a bit of movement in, whether that be the stairs or whether that be walking rather than, you know, jumping in the
Mm.
car.
I guess you're fighting against the convenience society, aren't you?
Yeah,
Um,
because our brains are like that, you know, because
yeah, well,
we're
anything that
designed to be
makes life
efficient.
easier,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
in one
imagine
respect,
like
yeah.
100,000 years ago, you know, Larry going, you know, to Jim, oh, I'm just going to go for a run. You know, Jim would be like, are you insane? Like, you go for a run. Well, I have no idea if we've got food. I have no idea if you're going to be safe if you just go for a run. So, you know, like that movement, like we have been designed to only move if we need to. And so we have to suddenly break and create new mindsets and behaviors to build a scaffolding that our brain doesn't naturally want to do. It doesn't want
Mm.
to do those things unless it has to. And what's really frustrating is that the human body actually is brilliant at doing those things because it's been designed to do them to survive. So we've got
Yes.
this brain that wants to be really efficient, a body that needs to be highly active in order to keep working. And that's the mismatch. And we have to be honest with ourselves that it's always going to be difficult, even though there's so many beautiful benefits of movement and it makes you feel so good once you do it. There is a mountain that everyone needs to overcome. And there's people that have overcome it and now have a new relationship with movement, and you can't take it away from them, even if you tried, like it's such a fundamental part of their lives. But then there's others on the other side of the mountain that just don't see movement as anything that they could enjoy or get something from. And the
Mm.
challenge is that each person's mountain to overcome is a different size. For some
Yeah.
people, it's quite small because they had parents that loved movement, that really brought it in at school, did it. Like for me, my parents hated physical activity. They actually once, when I went to a like an after school football club, without telling them, they told me off. Like I actually got grounded because I should have been going home and revising and
Right.
working and doing my
Right.
homework rather than wasting time doing football. You know, my dad, I remember
Yeah.
telling me, like, you're not going to be a footballer. Why are you wasting time
Yeah. Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
football? And so for everyone's mountain, it's different, whether it's a health condition, whether it's, deprivation, whether it's, perceptions of movement. But we each and everyone need to try to find ways over this mountain because I can promise you the valley on the other side
Yeah.
is so worth it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Beautifully put. Hussein, thank you very much for your time today. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. And there's so many people who are going to enjoy listening to this conversation that we're having because there's so much good stuff in it. I wish I could actually talk to you for about another 3 hours
Yeah.
because there's so many
I
topics
could
I would
probably
like to
keep
cover.
going.
But yeah, my thanks to you for apart from your time today, but thanks for all the work you're doing in your community. And you've been on TV, haven't you?
Mm.
On a couple of programs.
Yeah, yeah, a few different
The
occasions.
more
Yeah.
we can get you onto television, into the wider audience, the mainstream, the quicker that these pillars can be achieved or reached
Yeah.
by much many more people. It's getting into the mainstream, isn't it? I mean, there's so much stuff out there. Some of the stuff my wife looks at and she's going, "Why doesn't everybody know this?" And
Mm.
I said, "It's because it's not on Sky News with a yellow band running across.
Yeah.
Because if it was, everybody would know about it."
No,
So
no. But we are making progress. We are making
excellent,
progress. You know, when you look
excellent.
at parkrun just from that stats, like we are bigger than it's ever been.
Yeah,
And more people are starting to want to approach the lifestyle in a different way. My
yeah,
main concern is that with this increased awareness and interest, that can fall prey to people looking to sell quick solutions, because I think we naturally always want to find that easy solution out. And I just want to really discourage people from automatically going for that weird supplement or whatever thing they want to
yeah.
do, and instead realize that it's all of the health that they need to do is within themselves. They need to find that way of extracting it rather than anything that they're going to buy in order to do that.
Starts on the inside and works its way
100%.
out. That's great. We're
100%.
saying thank you so much. I'm going to enjoy listening to this conversation again to myself. So keep up your good work. Keep all those posts coming onto LinkedIn. When I put this video out, I shall be putting some links on it so people can find you quickly, and that'll be great. Okay.
Awesome. No, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks once again for your time.
Cool.
Cheers.
Take care.